What are some of the other areas where you think that the Democratic Party should open up, as it were, philosophically to conservatives?
We all want good schools. We all want good health care. We all want clean air and all the rest. This is what so pisses me off about what Trump's doing right now. And so I think Democrats got to wake up and be inclusive and say, you know what, we can be a tent big enough for a Joe Walsh and an AOC.
Yeah, Trump is the sickness, but the party, the GOP, is what spread it. On the line with us, our old buddy Joe Walsh, the former U.S. Congressman from Illinois, the 8th District, podcast host, Social Contract with Joe Walsh.substack.com, Walsh Freedom over at Blue Sky, Walsh Freedom on Twitter. And Joe says he's become a Democrat. Hey, Joe, welcome to the program. Welcome back.
Tom, it's been too long. Good to be with you, my friend.
Amen. I agree. I've been reading your stuff, and I mean, you know, you're pointing out some, things where we clearly agreed. Trump is a tyrant in the White House, and the Republican Party has basically just become a bunch of sycophants. And you make the point that the Democratic Party needs to expand its tent to embrace conservatives. And I kind of had this same conversation with Michael Steele some time back on his podcast, where, he's still asserting that he's a conservative, but I never quite understood exactly what that meant. What does being a conservative, and by the way, just for the record, I'm all in favor of the Democratic Party having conservatives in it, and I would love to see the Republican Party go back to the days of my youth when there were progressive Republicans. I mean, there were still some left in the 70s and 80s even, but certainly in the 50s and 60s. So anyhow, what does being a conservative mean to you, Joe?
It's a great question, Tom. And I only use that label because that's the label we use these days. I've always been more libertarian in my politics. So we generally, every policy issue, we argue about the role of government, right? We all want good schools. We all want good health care. We all want clean air and all the rest. Republicans and Democrats before Trump have argued about what should government do in each of those areas. I've always been someone who understands the role for government, but I've never been a hugely activist government guy. But throw that stuff out the window, Tom, because that's all really important. But the reason I became a Democrat last week is because I truly believe our democracy and the rule of law are teetering right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I get that, and I agree with you on that, and I'm not trying to provoke a debate here, Joe. I'm just my understanding of conservatism, and I grew up in a household. Now, admittedly, this was in the 1950s and 60s, but my dad was a Republican activist. And when I was 13 years old, I went door to door for Barry Goldwater with my dad. So I think I have an understanding of conservative perspectives. I've read both of Goldwater's autobiographies and John Stormer and None Dare Call It Treason and all that kind of stuff. But essentially you say, okay, we all agree that everybody in the country should have health care. There's really two paradigms for doing this. One is you have a national health care system like every democracy in the world except the United States and Switzerland, or secondly, and I would argue that this should be the libertarian position or a conservative position, you do it like Switzerland, where everybody is mandated to have health care, and all of the health insurance companies are required to be not-for-profits, and they operate within very strictly regulated guidelines, but there is no national health care system. The federal government sets some standards, but that's about it. Those are kind of the two extremes, but then the Republican Party comes along and says, screw all that. We don't even think people should have a right to health care. We simply think big corporations that kick back huge amounts of money to us politicians, us Republican politicians, should be able to screw people, any way they want. And we don't even think, United Healthcare and Aetna should be regulated. So where, when you say that you're a conservative, where do you fall on that spectrum with regard to just this one issue, just, for example?
Tom, I'd be somewhere right in the middle. Obviously, I don't agree with necessarily your characterization of this Republican Party, though that's probably where they are now. I agree with that. When it comes to health care, I generally believe that government should be an absolute safety net in this society for everybody who cannot provide for themselves. I generally believe, philosophically, that more of the American people who are able-bodied need to be paying for more and more of their day-to-day health care costs. And I believe we need to get our arms around insurance, which should be kind of what insurance was meant to be, to pay for catastrophic health issues. But again, I'm open to a discussion on all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. What are some of the other areas where you think that the Democratic Party should open up, as it were, philosophically to conservatives, genuine conservatives, like yourself, who have fled the Republican Party?
I think this Democratic Party, now my Democratic Party, a party I'm now part of, I think they lost touch with regular working class people. I campaigned every day last year for Kamala Harris. I would hear that, Tom, in every battleground state I went into. Voters right in the middle would tell me, I know Trump's a jerk, Joe, but the Democrats look down on me and don't understand me. A lot of that is economic. A lot of that is the issue of immigration. My former party demagogues the issue of immigration and the border, but Democrats have ignored that issue for way too long. And that's an issue, a real issue that regular folks are concerned about and have been concerned about. So secure the border, fix our immigration system, offer a pathway to citizenship for people who've been here. The nice thing, Tom, is that Trump and his party now are so ugly and extreme with what they're doing on immigration that there's a great opportunity for Democrats to capture the middle.
How?
By acknowledging that it's a real issue.
Oh, immigration? Oh,
yes.
Well, here's the thing, though, Joe. I mean, Democrats have been saying forever that we need comprehensive immigration reform. And it was proposed when Obama was president, and he had, enough of Congress to pull it off. He wasn't able to pull it off. I would argue that his effort was feeble, but it seems to me like this is an issue that has been largely created by right-wing media. I mean, you've got a bunch of Republican politicians. Ted Cruz is probably the worst at this, who go out and yell and scream about how the border is open. The border is wide open. I mean, they literally say that. I wrote an op-ed 2 years ago in which I cited 30 or 40 different, or somewhere between 30 and 40 different high-profile Republicans, including Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, et cetera, and including, by the way, Donald Trump, claiming during the Biden administration, it's, quote, wide open. Well, what happens then is that you get all these people in Central and South America who are reading these things and saying, oh, the border's open, I guess I'll go up there. It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's always been my contention that that's exactly what these Republican demagogues are trying to do. They were trying to get people to come to the border. This is not a Democratic issue. This is a Republican. The Republicans created this issue.
I'd respectfully disagree with you, my friend. I think there's some truth to what you just said. I know that Republicans have demagogued this issue over the years because I used to demagogue the issue. But Joe Biden, before he got elected and after he got elected, and for his first 3.5 years, he ignored the crisis at the border. He did. And he sent a message when he was running that he would be the opposite of Trump. He changed a couple of Trump's policies at the border. He welcomed people. He did send a message to folks to come on up, I believe. I don't think Democrats have been concerned about the issue of the border. And Tom, you look at this issue of migrants who are in this country, all of whom are great, good, decent people. Remember during the campaign, Trump talked about they're eating your cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. What lies. What a dangerous, dangerous, ugly lie. But that issue, Springfield, Ohio, a town of 60,000 people, 20,000 Haitian migrants had gone there, migrated there in the past 4 to 5 years. They're all good people, but that creates real issues, financial, in that town of Springfield, Ohio. Play that out around the country. This is a concern that folks have had. Republicans have demagogued it. Democrats haven't spoken to it.
Yeah. Well, what Joe Biden did was he, I think, fairly aggressively closed the border, as it were, and came out with this app where you could apply for asylum from outside the United States, but not inside the United States. And, you know, most of these people coming in were applying for asylum. On the one hand, I get the argument that this whole asylum thing is a loophole, essentially. On the other hand, you know, I have worked in Central and South American countries. I used to do it. I used to be an international relief worker throughout the 80s and early 90s. And some of these countries are genuine hellholes, and people really truly are fleeing for their lives.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
You know, the Reagan administration horribly disrupted the whole political system in Central America. And now you've got, you know, climate change is just wiping out large chunks of Guatemala. You've got literally thousands of farms that have just turned into desert. So, you know, I get both sides of this, Joe. But
no, but Tom, you and I would agree on this. This is what so pisses me off about what Trump's doing right now. The business community in this country and our government, they've created purposely this broken system. They've incentivized people to come here. Businesses want these people. The government has wanted them here.
Oh,
our government,
they publish newspaper-sized broadsheets like the old, you know, shopping guides in Spanish that are distributed in Central America that have ads for meatpacking companies in Wisconsin.
We've incentivized people to come here to take advantage of a broken system.
Yeah.
Businesses have done that, and our government's done that. And for us now to say, no, we're going to deport you all, shame on us.
Yeah.
Fix the system.
Yeah, I get it. Joe, I only have 45 seconds until I'm going to hit a hard break here. I can't control. Where do you think the Democratic Party goes next? And how do you see this whole thing playing out?
I think the Democratic Party needs to fight. I think that fight's got to come from the progressive left, and it's got to come from the center, from the middle as well. The tent has got to be big because I believe, Tom, my former party, the MAGA movement, is bigger than Democrats think. And so I think Democrats got to wake up and be inclusive and say, you know what, we can be a tent big enough for a Joe Walsh and an AOC. Right now, I think we have to do that.
Yeah, a Joe Walsh. To what extent do you think race is driving this?
Somewhat, no doubt, somewhat. My former party, Tom, they imagine and they hearken back to a white Christian America.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this.
Yeah, I get it. Joe Walsh, Social Contract with JoeWalsh.substack.com, Walsh Freedom on Blue Sky and Twitter. I have all that right, Joe?
You got it, Tom.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Joe, thanks for dropping by. It's great talking with you. I look forward to future conversations.
Yep.
It's 48 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with your calls right after this.